This week on Character Profile, we were supposed to be doing a classic one, but we're going to do Marcus in the end, as he kind of left early in the week. And if we leave it for another week or so to go back to our normal current character profile, we may even have forgotten about Marcus by then.
Everyone will have forgotten about
considering how low-key his exit was. So we thought we'd sneak him in and get our classic character profile in next week. I think this is going to be a fairly short one because looking back over at Marcus's time on the street, he's not really done very much. He's not made much of a dent in the street, as it were. But we don't even have that many stats about him. We know that he was born in 1977, but according to Corripedia, he's never had a birthday on the show, so we don't know when his birthday is. We know that his parents were Ron and Janet Dent, who we met a couple of years back. Marcus first appeared on the 7th of September 2007 and obviously made his last appearance this week on the 14th of July 2014. But throughout all that time, because he wasn't in it all the time, he only made around 310 episodes or so. Doesn't put him in the top 100 or anything. And he's played by Charlie Condu. I was looking around on the internet to try and find information about his initial casting, like press releases from ITV from 2007, but I couldn't find anything. So if we can just go straight into what he actually did on the show. We did watch his first scene the other day on ITV website, didn't we, in the character section, which is quite funny seeing him and Sean looking quite fresh-faced. But the whole storyline there was when Sean and Violet were having a baby together. Not that they were a couple.
No.
But it was that Violet thought that she would never be a parent, and I think that because her and Sean were friends, they'd made a pact years before that if they didn't have a baby by the time they were 30, they'd have one together. So it was a bit odd.
I think I think this is like a big kind of thing that people were talking about when the technology to sort of allow for things like this to happen.
Sperm donation and fertility. Kind of things.
When it became more commonplace to do it, people started to sort of talk about it more. And also there was a plotline very much like this on Will and Grace.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, Marcus was there because he was the sonographer at the hospital when she was having one of her antenatal appointments or something. Sean commented on how hot Marcus looked or something. Yeah. And before long, they'd exchanged numbers and were dating. And the only other thing of note that happened with them that year was that Sean tricked Marcus into revealing the gender of the baby, which Violet didn't want to know.
People that don't want to know, what's wrong with you?
I
know you don't want to know.
Have this
I don't understand why not.
I don't want to know. Not that Gemma's pregnant or anything, we'll make it clear.
Why wouldn't you want to know?
Because it's a surprise, isn't it?
Why is this a surprise?
Because it's nature.
No, nature's when a ferret runs into your house and you feed it ham.
2008 was a bigger year for Marcus. The baby Dylan was delivered in February by Marcus and Sean. And Marcus was also there by Maria's side when she had a stillborn baby in April. Later that year, he quit his sonographer job because he wanted to find something better. Don't know what can be better than smearing jelly over ladies' bits. Yeah,
ladies' bits.
tummy bits.
Tummy bits.
But I suppose he wasn't interested in that kind of thing, was he?
No.
They'd planned to move into their own place together, and Eileen was probably jumping for joy at that point.
Yeah.
But no, the plans were put on hold when Sean also lost his job at the factory.
Now. Todd did a little bit of meddling because he hasn't always just been a nice guy. He's also been a bit of a meddler.
Well, it looks like he was meddling from afar back then.
He phoned Eileen to tell her that he'd seen Marcus with another man in a London nightclub, and Sean got very paranoid about this, and their relationship was on the rocks. And Marcus eventually got too fed up with Sean's jealousy, and he went to go and live in London.
Yeah, leaving a sobbing Sean
So
behind.
that was when he left for the first time in 2008.
Yeah. So he hadn't really done very much up to that point. I remember when they said he was coming back, I was like, oh yeah, Marcus, he was quite nice. He was quite a good character. But unless there's lots of things that he did that just aren't reported on Wikipedia or Corripedia, I don't know what particularly would have led me to think that. Because he is a decent guy. I think,
and there's very few that aren't hyper-masculine or sort of hunky-looking young guys.
Yeah. It was nice to have somebody that was a bit more realistic, I guess, or more the kind of person that we'd want to be friends with.
Yeah, we'd be friends with Marcus.
But Charlie at the time had said that he's had a fantastic time in Coronation Street, But as a jobbing actor, I believe it's time to move on. There are a few things in the pipeline, one of which is a feature film which was being made abroad.
Oh, abroad?
But all that's under wraps at the moment. What was that? I didn't even look to see
that's
that
really
was.
fancy. I'm going abroad to make a movie. Screw you, Coronation Street. I'll hit the big time.
But yeah, he likes to kind of flit from this to that, which is why he's up and left afterwards.
I don't get why. If I was an actor and I got a job on Coronation Street, I would
There for
fight.
life.
Yeah, I'd be like, this is it now. I've made it. I'm not going anywhere.
Well, he was away for like 3 years or so because in January 2011 his return was confirmed. And the press release said that there were eventful times ahead for Sean Tully as his old flame Marcus Dent returned to the cobbles. Marcus arrives back in Weatherfield on the 13th of May 2011 and the relationship between him and Sean is rekindled. So that's what happened. 2011, during a trip to London to go and see Dylan, Sean was surprised to find Marcus at Violet and Jamie's flat.
I've discovered what the film is that he was in.
Oh, you've been researching, have you? Go on.
He was in Good, which also starred Viggo Mortensen, Jason Isaacs and Jodie Whittaker.
That sounds good.
Based on the stage play of the same name by C.P. Taylor.
Was it any good?
I don't know. It says... Sadly, the film was poorly received by critics and its release was limited. It currently holds a 34% rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.1
Oh, no wonder he wanted
out of 10
to go back to
rating.
Coronation Street.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah, anyway, they met again in London, and they went on a trip around the city with Dylan, I think, and flames of passion were rekindled between them. So several weeks later, Marcus came back up to Weatherfield for a job interview, and their pair decided to give their relationship another go after Eileen organised a blind date between them. So then they had a bit of a storyline with Dylan staying with Sean and Marcus for a bit because Violet had been involved in a car crash, and Marcus then was led to realise that he wanted a child of his own, but Sean wasn't interested in having another one. I can't really see Sean as that much of a father. I mean, he likes it when Dylan comes up to stay, but the idea of him like properly looking after a child and raising it and taking it to school and everything, as much as he says he likes being a dad, I can't see him doing that. He's a bit too much of a drama queen, and
yeah,
I don't think he'd be a very good job of it. I guess at the time, the idea of a gay couple raising a child together was in the news, or still a bit of a controversial topic, wasn't it? I mean, even now, I as far as I'm aware at least, that there's never been any children in my class that have had a gay couple as their parents, and that they still haven't gone so far in Coronation Street as to have a gay couple raising a child, have they? So it's still a bit taboo, I guess, but I think society is moving more
really
accepting
quickly.
of it.
I think
everything's moving very quickly
towards
equality and
and I think
rights for all.
I think it just goes to show that probably there's just a few bigots who hated the idea of it, and everyone just kind of went along because it didn't really affect them. But then the more people think about it and the more rights get won for equality, people kind of think, yeah, why shouldn't they be able to, you know?
Well, Charlie Condo is quite an active activist, isn't he, for gay rights? And then they had, do you remember that silly storyline that was in the paper either this year or last year, which was like shocking reveal that Charlie Condo had a child, even though he'd never hidden the fact, and he'd spoken about the fact that he was a father.
Stupid sometimes.
Yeah, but anyway, Sean didn't want a family at the time, and I guess the idea of Marcus wanting to be a father has been kept with his character since then because of how much he bonded with Liam.
This is why I think, because we know that Charlie Condo in real life has a child and he's a gay rights activist, I do think I'm quite disappointed in the way that his storyline has developed on the street, because I feel that he wasn't. I feel like if I was Charlie Condo, I'd want my character to, if they were going to tackle storylines like that, I'd want them to represent a progressive opinion and kind of what my own beliefs were. And I don't think that they do, because I think that it got muddled with this whole Maria storyline and him being bisexual. No, I'm not, I'm gay, but I'm with a straight woman. It just confused the issue unnecessarily at a time when it's quite still a sensitive thing, and I don't think that we really need storylines like this muddying people's opinions about gay people and their rights to families and things like that. I think it didn't put anyone back, of course, because nobody would take it seriously, but I don't think that it really helped anybody.
Not really, no. Well, this is the storyline that then developed in 2013, wasn't it? Do you remember Aidan, the character?
Nope.
When I was reading about it, I couldn't remember him at all, but then I looked at a picture of him and was like, yeah, okay, I remember him a little bit.
Yes, I have seen his face.
Yeah. So Aidan is introduced to Maria by Marcus, who's a colleague of his from work. But then he was shocked to find out that actually Aidan was gay. So bit of competition there. So Sean was jealous of all the time that Marcus was spending with Aidan, particularly when Marcus spent the night on his sofa after an argument with Sean. And in the end, Marcus split up with Sean because of his jealousy, and he started dating Aidan instead. But before long, he got a bit closer to Maria, because then they had that silly 1 week long storyline where Maria was possibly having had cancer back in autumn of 2012 because she found a lump. But it turned out that it wasn't got cancer, and they got caught up in the drama of it and kissed, Marcus and Maria did. And this was what looked like it was going to be a huge storyline for the couple, and you get to see about, like you're saying, the issues around gay people and not being gay and being able to have relationships with women even though you were gay, and it didn't go anywhere in the end.
I don't think anyone ever mentioned that he was bisexual either. I don't think that was ever.
No, it wasn't.
Discussed.
It was a big shock, and I guess it was a shock for him. It was a shock for Sean, who walked in on them. But
no, I mean, he never, after he had decided that they were going to be together, right? Because they get into a relationship, Maria and Marcus. He never said, "I'm bisexual."
No, he always said that he was gay, didn't he?
But no one asked him. If I was an observer of this on the street, I would be saying, well, he's obviously bisexual. But no one ever said that. No one ever asked him. He never said he was. I really don't remember them ever using the term. He maintained throughout this that he is just still a gay man in a relationship with a woman.
Yeah, well, it particularly came out. Yeah, exactly, because Maria was worried that Marcus was being tempted back because he spent an evening with some gay friends, and he was like saying, no, look, that's when he said, I am still gay, but I'm in love with a woman. And I think Maria hadn't realised up until that point, because she thought that, oh, actually he's straight, or actually he's turned straight, or she was just happy the fact that she was in a relationship with this lovely man.
His sexual identity is quite complicated, and she thought it was simple because whoever he is with, that is what he's into. So I don't think she ever wanted to really examine it too much herself because she doesn't want to think about it. But then when she was confronted with this idea that he is actually a gay man, still, I think it's threw her for a loop somewhat, and I found it to be confusing as a viewer.
What made it most confusing was just that they were never. The relationship was barely ever shown. They went through the whole of 2013 hardly appearing on Corrie, when it could have been a perfect opportunity to have shown all of that, like you were saying, but they were just completely in the background. And then until the end of the year, when Todd, when they were looking at buying a house together, and then Todd came back up, and then he started causing trouble there. We didn't really get to see any of life for Maria and Marcus. We saw his parents come up for a little bit, and were they the kind of
they were thrilled.
They were thrilled because
so
they
happy.
thought that his being gay was just a phase, and
turns out they were right.
Yeah. But yeah,
or were they?
His going out with a woman turned out being a phase. But yeah, we just didn't get to see any of them together, and then he got tempted away from Todd, and then we were left this year with a bit of a sour. He was
tempted away by Todd,
and we were just left this year with a bit of a bad impression of him because of how easily he was tempted away by him, particularly as it was so obvious how horrible Todd was, and really not Marcus's type as far as we could tell.
Completely badly matched couple.
Yeah. It
wasn't as if Todd even tried to pretend to be somebody that Marcus would want to go out with.
No, it could have been. I guess. I mean, they wanted to bring Bruno Langley back, but I suppose if they wanted a storyline where a gay person came along and Marcus fell for him, if they had cast a new character for that, they maybe wouldn't have made him quite so unlikable as Todd was.
I think it was just fortuitous in that character, Todd was coming back and Marcus was leaving, so they thought, well, they're both gay, let's
Yeah,
It's obvious.
yeah. I think we probably must have said it at the time as well.
I mean, there's a very small dating pool if you're a gay man on Coronation Street, unfortunately.
Yeah, but yeah, and that's the end of Marcus. So he's said last November that he'd had a fantastic time again at Corrie, but I feel it's time for me to move on. I was only meant to return for 3 months and ended up staying for 3 years. The producers have been really supportive and are leaving the door open for Marcus, which is great. And my exit will certainly be explosive. It was explosive, as in the kind of. It wasn't the leaving in the taxi wasn't, but I was quite interested
You did have an altercation with Todd, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I find it quite interesting that Charlie Condu doesn't. He obviously doesn't want to blot his copybook, and he wants to come back to Corrie, because I can't believe that he. Maybe I'm making too big of a deal about it. I must be, because I would just find it. If I was him, I wouldn't have found my role on Coronation Street to have been compatible with my beliefs as a gay rights activist. I guess, I mean, the thing is, if they were doing a storyline about gender fluidity and sexual identity not being as straight cut as everyone thinks it is, you can't just put people into categories.
Yeah.
He never came out and said that, and they never really examined it. They just kind of went, well, he's straight, deal with it. No, he's not, he's gay, deal with it. Do you know what I mean? They never really examined it in any depth.
Not
I guess
as much as they could have done.
They're scared to, because it would have turned off the audience, maybe, more traditional side of the audience. But I don't know. I found it strange at the time, and I still find it strange now. And I don't know what to make of that whole part of his storyline.
Yeah.
And if he did come back, I wonder whether they would have him be with a man or a woman.
I think it'd end up being a man, but to be honest, I'm not fussed whether he comes back. I was happy to hear that he was coming back a few years ago, but the little that they've used him.
Yeah, I don't think he's proven himself to be an indispensable character.
He's a good enough actor, certainly. He's believable. He's a nice chap. I mean, the character's been an idiot falling for Todd, but I think if he came back again, in the back of my mind, it'd be like, how long is he going to stay for again? I don't feel that I can really get invested in him.
Yeah.
He's looking back over his 7 years on and off of Coronation Street. He's not particularly made much of an impression. He's been involved in a couple of low-key-ish storylines, and that's been it really, which is a shame because we like him.
I mean, from the point of view is that he's not a stereotypically camp gay character. It's really good that he was.
Yeah, that's true, because the only other example of a gay character really we had was Sean at the time, and I guess Todd, but it wasn't long after he came out that he left for London, so we were left with Sean as like
it's sort of very stereotypical. I'm an entertaining kind of camp gay character on a soap sort of, or like a theatrical kind of character, whereas Marcus was very down to earth, and unless you asked him or saw him out with his boyfriend, you wouldn't have thought to have questioned.
Yeah, I mean Todd was always quite like softly spoken and intelligent and kind of a nicey nice kind of a little bit wet, I think, when he was in it before. But Marcus was just like a decent bloke, I guess, when he totally normal and not necessarily someone that you would automatically say, oh, he's definitely gay.
And it's good because
it was good because it shows that
it shouldn't just be camp characters on.
No, and I think a lot
TV.
of Corrie watchers dislike Sean for that reason, because he plays up to the gay stereotype just so much. But yeah, he thinks that he possibly will go back, but.
Well, he reckons he's going to be like Kate Kelly's in Mr. Selfridge and Julie Hesmondhalgh, who's done lots of things. I don't know what they are, but obviously the life of an actor is quite a lot more varied than just TV stuff, because we always think if they're not on TV, they're not successful.
If they're not on something that we're not watching.
If they're not on a show that's on every week, they're not doing anything with their career. But there's theatre, there's work abroad. There's so much that an actor can do, and the idea that they should be like in one thing, make a load of money, and then not be in anything else is kind of a bit of a weird kind of unusual.
I don't think he's going to get a better job than Coronation Street.
Yeah, but you see, that's my point that I'm trying to make. Your idea of what is a good job for an actor is not necessarily what his idea of a good job for an actor is.
Yeah.
Being the rewarding experience of being in theatre.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, it's probably a lot more. Well, it's not particularly stable, but it's more stable than being in a soap, and at any minute you could be just cold out of the show. And if you've put all your eggs in one basket, then you are in trouble, because
floundering a bit if you ever do leave.
We've seen other actors who've been booted out of the show who just completely
disappear. Yeah. They don't know what
else to do.
Yeah. So there we go. That's Marcus. Any final thoughts or comments about him?
Ta-ta.
Yeah. Well, I think he's going to be one that, like, 10 years' time we'll look back and it'll be, oh, remember him. I think I remember him.
I vaguely remember Marcus. Wasn't he the gay one?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But he was, I felt he had potential, but I don't know whether Corrie was really the right programme. I think if it had been a different style of programme, it would have been a lot more interesting, because they could have got really tackled some more issues that they were probably a bit too scared to do on Corrie.
I just wonder what they're going to do with Sean, because, I mean, Marcus had been a boyfriend for Sean, but they obviously didn't want to go down the gay family route, and now Sean is still left doing pretty much nothing.
The trouble with they like to pair people off, but the trouble with both Todd and Sean are they're the only two gay characters on the street now. So if they want them to be in a relationship, it has to be with each other, which I would find cringy, or with a brand new character that they have to then introduce. And then what's going to, exactly, it's a lot of hard work. It's a bit of a gamble, because you don't know what the character's going to be like.
Yeah.
So I don't know what.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, not for us to decide. No, let's move on. Let's go on to the cabin now.